Fellow Falcoholics, welcome to a special episode of the Falcoholic Live. I've got a great interview for you here with Rice wide receiver coach Mike Kershaw, the receiver coach of impressive Falcons undrafted free agent Austin Trammell, who's been putting on a show over the first few days of training camp. So, guys, enjoy this interview. Mike and I talked about Trammell, his history with Rice, and his skill set and his translation to the NFL. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Coach Mike Kershaw of Rice. Thank you once again, Coach, for coming on, and thank you guys for listening. Perfect. Again, thank you very much for coming on, guys. I'm Kevin Knight here with Coach Mike Kershaw of the Rice Owls. Mike is the wide receivers coach there at Rice and the former coach, I guess now, of undrafted wide receiver Austin Trammell, who, based on his first few days at training camp, maybe shouldn't have been undrafted. Coach, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today.
Kevin, I appreciate you reaching out, and anytime I can help, definitely will.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, Austin has been kind of the talk of the first couple training camp sessions. He had a lot of hype, actually, from some guys that I follow. I know that our Rams site at SB Nation wrote up a piece on him, and as they're big fans of Wes Welker. I've heard from Austin that he modeled his game after Wes Welker. Did he share that with you as well? That was one of his inspirations.
Yeah, Wes Welker, kind of obviously Julian Edelman, obviously falls into that boat, and so that's kind of what the way we've kind of broken down film for him the last couple of years. We watch a lot of NFL film, and that's obviously those are the guys that we've broken down for him, and he's studied a tremendous amount.
Yeah, and those are obviously great guys to model your game after, particularly for someone with his measurables. I was looking over his relative athletic score. I don't know if you're familiar with RAS. That's a new thing that Kent LaPlatte's been doing on Twitter, but you basically take all the athletic testing and you put it together and it spits out numbers that show you the total picture of the athlete, not just how good, a 40 is or so-and-so. I also need to know, is it Trammell or Trammell? Because this has been a big topic of dissension among the staff here.
It is definitely Trammell. Austin
Trammell. Okay. Yeah. Good. Okay. So I've won the bet then on that. So
good deal.
But really impressed with Trammell's his 3-cone time and his shuttle, and his jumps were just outstanding. Elite sort of testing. Is that something that you noticed from the eye test working with him as well?
Yeah, he worked really, really hard this offseason with our strength and conditioning coach, Hans Straub. They did a fantastic job working with him. He didn't go to a personal trainer. He stuck with who we were working with since he's been here. And Coach Straub is amazing here with our guys, but he really kind of took it to the next level. And it's kind of one of those funny things. You're like, anytime a guy that's going to the NFL, you're like, man, why don't you work as hard now as you were, that you're going to do going to the NFL? And so that's always the case. So everybody knows that, but he worked tremendously hard. Coach Straub had a great program for him. All those times were all his personal best. I've never seen him jump 40 inches before.
Yeah, it's just, especially for someone who's 5'8", I think. Yeah. So that's just wild. Yeah.
And he came in and he basically had a challenge to himself to go into the Houston Pro Day, because that's where we did it at the U of H. And there was another receiver that they had over there that was drafted. His number one goal was to, other than the 40 time, he knew he wasn't going to probably beat his 40 time, but he wanted to beat him in every other deal, and he did.
Yeah.
And he was the talk of that pro day. So it's pretty nice when you go across town to that other school and you're the talk of their pro day, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just an exceptional performance there. Obviously got on the radar of some of our other people at other sites. So obviously Falcons fans are excited. But yeah, how would you describe his skill set for people that aren't familiar with him? You worked with him for several years. How would you describe his skill set and maybe the sort of ideal role you would have for him in an offense?
So he's definitely, obviously kind of how you use Julian Edelman, how you use Cole Beasley, right? He's not your vertical stretch the field, which he doesn't need to be over there. You've got Calvin Ridley, you got the guys that can stretch it vertical, right? So he doesn't need to be that, but he is a guy that he knows leverage really, really well. So he can see and he understand the defense and know what they're trying to do against him. And so he's going to be able to use that against them and use his leverage well. And he's obviously what you talked about, his 3-cone drill and his 5-10-5. He's very, very quick. So he's going to stick the foot in the ground and create the separation that you're looking for. So that's what he does really well. He obviously for us was a big third down guy. When it's 3rd and 5 to 10, that's the guy you're going to. And everyone in Conference USA knew that we were going to go to him, but he still got open, right? It didn't matter if you double teamed him, however you wanted to do it. Definitely don't single him up because he was going to make that guy look really silly.
Yeah, very impressive. And, it really stands out to me. Obviously, COVID shortened season, didn't have a full year, but based on the stats that Trammell put up in just 3 games, 335 yards, 6 touchdowns, almost 21 yards per reception on 16 catches. I mean, those are some wild stats. It's sad because if he kept up that sort of production over a 12-game season, I mean, there's no way this guy could have gone undrafted. I mean, it's crazy. So looking at his production last year compared, obviously, fewer catches, the yards per reception is a little bit more volatile when you got fewer catches, but what sort of changed for him or for your offense in 2020 compared to previous years where his yards per reception were still a very good, 12, 13 yards, but this last year up in the 20s. So yeah, what maybe changed there for Trammell or your offense?
I think probably philosophy on our offense is we are a run-based pro-style type offense. We do run the West Coast type system, which is very much catch and throw, get it and get some yak yards. But we didn't change offensively the too much of the philosophy, except for we said we need to throw the ball downfield a little bit more. We needed a little bit more explosive plays. And kind of by circumstance, we lost our big X going into the season, who really is the deep threat type guy. So we lost him to injury going into the season. So we had to make do, right? And Trammell was a guy that we felt comfortable doing everything we needed to do. He caught some really, really nice deep balls. He also caught a couple of balls where, he caught a 10-yard speed out and it took it 75 yards, right? Yeah. So that helps the average tremendously. That makes the quarterbacks really happy too. Let me throw it 10 yards and you take it 75 for a touchdown. But, that's something that I think his mindset last year was, hey, this is going to be my last year, even though he had a chance to come back for one more. He was like, hey, I've done what I needed to do here, but let me go finish out on top. And really, we say 3 games. It was really kind of 2.5 because the last game that he played, he got hurt. And so was really running on one leg 3 quarters of that game. So it's really 2 games and a quarter. He put those numbers up. So he just came out and, refused to be tackled, refused to be covered. And his desire to get in the end zone was better than their desire to tackle.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, yeah. And Trammell's also, as of Saturday, getting some work as a returner as well. So can you tell me a little bit about his sort of skill set as a returner? I know I can see that he has had some opportunity to return for you guys over his years in college. Is that's a part of his game that he's sort of worked on over the past couple of years?
It is. We've used him really in all the return aspects of it. Last year, it was more, we kind of got him more away from being the primary kick returner. Just because of straight line speed, we wanted someone maybe a hair faster, but really the punt returning is where I see he's going to be able to make an impact. 2 reasons why. He's 1,000% reliable. He's going to make sure, that's what you want, but hey, at least catch it regardless of whatever happens. Don't let the ball hit the ground and you lose 15, 20 yards or 30 yards by that, right? Everyone's like, why didn't you just catch the ball? So he understands to make that happen, but then also he understands, and we've talked about this a lot, and I'm the punt return coach as well. It's like, the punt returner, your job is to make the first guy miss, right? There's going to be one guy coming down unblocked. So you got to have to be a little fearless, right? Because there's a guy coming unblocked who's going to come right at you to try to, separate the ball from you, right? And you understand you got a little bit of a buffer, but you got to be a little fearless, and then you got to be able to have quickness to make that guy miss, and then they get back vertical. So you've seen it on the field already. His short area quickness is really, really good. Yeah. So the 2 things you're looking for in the punt returner, he has, right? He's trustworthy. He's going to catch the ball. He's done it really his whole career here, and he's going to be able to make the first guy miss. And now it's your job to block everybody else.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, especially in the NFL, teams are so good at coverage, and the rules, really are starting to make it difficult for guys to return. And with the Falcons signing a guy like Cordarrelle Patterson,
Mhm.
uh, who's going to take over kick returns but doesn't return punts, there's definitely an opportunity for someone like Trammell to come in and compete for that spot. With some of the other guys the Falcons have. And I would say he's definitely been a standout in the return game as well so far. Glad they're giving him a chance to factor into that competition. I think he got,
He'll be the
yeah,
special teams coordinator best friend if he can make the first guy miss and get 10 yards. If you give the special teams coordinator a first down, you'll be his best bud.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's a tough competition there, but I think he's definitely got a shot, and exciting to have him factor in there as well. But yeah, I mean, I think yesterday was kind of his kind of coming out party, because there was some offseason hype about it, and then he just really put on a show yesterday in 11 on 11 and in some of the open field tackling drills. But I don't know if he's had a chance to reach out to you at all yet and talk about his first couple weeks with the team. Anything on that you could share?
Yeah, he came in once you guys were on your break after the OTAs. He came and we sat down for an hour in the office, and really to me, of course, I wanted how you doing, how's everything going. To me, I wanted to pick his brain. Right, I'm all about stealing as much information as I possibly can. And
Yeah.
if you look up on my board, I still have some sayings and some things that he learned differently, or the verbiage is a little bit different than what we were teaching. Right, so.
Mm-hmm.
That was my big deal. Hey, tell me what you learned. Tell me what's different. Hey, did he use any other terminology that, well, coach, we're doing this, but it's exactly the same. He said it this way. That's what I was trying to do, try to steal as much information as possible. But he had his playbook in here, and that's the one thing that, you always know going in, especially with us being a West Coast type terminology. It's a lot different than the spread teams that don't get in a huddle. They just
Right.
look to the sidelines and they get a hand signal, or they get a cardboard box up there with a number on it, or a signal on it, a Batman signal or something. And right, we got to get in the huddle. We call a play. We break the huddle. You got to line up. And he knows that he can play Z. He can play the slot. He can play the X. And that's what's really helped him going into OTAs and going into training camp, is his knowledge of what's going on. And yet maybe some things, the terminology is a little different, but
Right.
it all relates, right? He could say, okay, well, this means this, and then relay it a lot easier than someone who's coming in from a spread offense who has no idea. And they're just like, I'm just so confused. And now I can't play fast. I can't do what I want. He can do that right now. He's ahead of the game, I would say, mentally, over probably every rookie coming into camp.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's definitely a good fit, because with Arthur Smith coming in, runs a very similar style of offense. Obviously there's some differences, schematic, sort of flavor differences between the two. But yeah, I mean, I would say Trammell looks very comfortable immediately. The plays probably aren't all that different. The players are a little different. The coaches are a little different, and terms different. But at the end of the day, West Coast is pretty much West Coast. So I think that's definitely an advantage for him. Yeah, just excited to see how he does, obviously making a big impact immediately. Just want to know if there's any sort of like funny stories or any of your favorite moments with Trammell that you'd like to share, just for the fans to get maybe a better idea of him as a person.
So he's not, there's probably not a ton of funny stuff. I mean, he's a guy that he's all business, right?
Yeah, he
So
seems very business-like from what I've seen. Yeah.
But our guys loved him. He's been a team captain really ever since we've been here. So through his sophomore year, which is hard to do, right? But he earned that because he works hard, and people understand that. So that's something that coming in and Coach Bloomgren's system, he learned it really, really fast, and he knew it's like, guys, this is something we got to do, and we got to work hard and make this happen. So the guys followed him, right? I don't know if you know what his nickname is, but he's always been nicknamed the Sheriff.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you want to throw that at him, that he'll understand what that's all about. But other than that, I mean, he's not a clown. He's not a come over and clown around. He's all business. He knows what his job is, and he's going to do it 1,000%. And he's going to make sure that he's prepared. He's going to be the smartest guy in the room. Not just because he's a Rice student, which helps, right? But he is going to be the smartest guy in the room because he's going to spend the time doing that, right? That's his number one priority. He's not a guy that wants to go out and hang out. He's married. He got married this spring, so he's all business. He's trying to put food on the table for his family, and that's what you're going to get. So he'll laugh and joke with everyone else, but he won't be a clown in the room. He's out there to win a job and to get on that 53-man roster, and we have all the faith in the world in him to do that.
Yeah, man, it's looking very promising for him, and I know there's a lot of fans that are real big fans of him, and you can tell, I think, his game is very technically sound. Like for me, just watching his footwork and going through cutting drills and stuff like that, it's so smooth, so clean. You can tell he's really put in the work, not just in the playbook because he looks comfortable out there running the plays, but in terms of the little things, the techniques, the route stems, all these sort of things. So I've been very impressed with that as well. So very excited to see the rest of his camp and pulling for him here. Before we get out of here, again, thank you for your time today. Any other Rice receivers that NFL fans should be keeping their eye on, either for this year or future years that are coming up through the system?
So yeah, we've got a couple. We when we got in and when Coach Bloomberg got the job in 2018, that was one of the biggest deals we needed to make better was the speed and the size in that receiver room. And we think we've done that. I mean, we had Trammell in the room, but there's a guy who's on the Biletnikoff watch list, Bradley Rosner, who was an ex that we missed last year. Who's 6'4", 210. He's a 4'6" guy who has a lot of range. We got some other young guys coming up too that, really need to that we feel are going to put some really good stuff on film this year so that they can get their name out there too. Jake Bailey, a kid from California who played at Bosco, is a guy that's there. And then several other guys that are up and coming that are waiting for their turn. And now that Austin's gone, there's some opportunities for people. So what are they going to do with that? So that's what we're excited for. We think this is our year to come on strong, and we've got the depth and the experience now that we're looking for that we haven't had in the past. And Coach Bloomgren has done a fantastic job with his program, and we're just really excited for the 2021 season.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll just hope that it's a healthy, COVID-free year, and that's not going to impact any more football seasons going forward.
No doubt.
Again, Coach Mike Kershaw, the wide receivers coach at Rice. Again, thank you so much, Coach, for your time. We appreciate you coming on and talking with us.
Kevin, anytime. I appreciate it. Keep posting those updates. I'm checking it every day.
Absolutely, will do. I'm there until Wednesday, so I'll keep going until then. Then I got to go back to New York. So
Gotcha.
All right, man. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.